Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Dragon Mage by Langlais, narrated by Chandra Skyye. Prologue. The end of the world began its steady march because of a cat. No one was surprised. Somewhere, in an arid land where the sun beat down, baking the dirt, at the very rear of a shelf, in a closet rarely opened, sat a bottle that never gathered any dust. More than a century now, it had occupied that spot, and before that, 10 times as long in another home, showcased with pride, an heirloom passed down along the generations, so many of them that the story of the glass amphora was lost, its true value forgotten. Thus the bottle was hidden away and ignored. The amphora bided its time, settled quietly on that shelf, unassuming, waiting. Over the years, the muffled voices and noises that penetrated its hiding spot changed, as did the bedding shoved into this rarely used closet, each new sheet and pillowcase pushing the container farther back until it found itself in the farthest corner, never even sensing daylight. It waited some more. One day, something exploded nearby. It could have been a bomb, or even a gas stove, rattling the very structure of the house, shifting the old stone. The bottle wobbled for a second, but cushioned between the wall and bedding, it steadied. The house remained standing, for now. But the process had begun. A crack appeared, then another. No one repaired the damage, and it got worse. A bullet came right through a window, the angle just right to hit the wooden closet door, where it remained wedged. Not close enough to help, but apparently enough to empty the house. It didn't remain abandoned for long. Transients moved in, searching the place top to bottom, looking for anything of value. They rummaged in the closet, shoving in their arms, their hands never quite reaching deep enough past the musty sheets to find the bottle. The closet slammed shut, and the amphora quivered. Close. So close. It wasn't long before they returned, yanking on the sheets and blankets stuffed in the closet. They pulled out everything they could, revealing the bottle. The glass was dragged forward enough to be seen. Daylight at last. Freedom was at hand. Open me. Rather than crack the top, the less than gentle hands shook the amphora, peered at it. It almost got tossed to the ground. Do it. The bottle was placed back in the closet, intact. The vagrants left, but they didn't close the door. Soon, a new occupant moved in, a feline with ribs showing through its fur and a crooked-tipped tail. It sauntered past the closet, teasing with its leisurely walk. Come here. The cat didn't even deign to look. It left. But it returned the next day. It entered the closet, drawn by a bobbing pinpoint of light refracted from the bottle. The cat chased it around, almost knocking over the amphora. It came close a few times, but the feline proved too graceful, teasing the amphora instead with the silken rub of its fur. As if to taunt, it spent the night curled around the bottle. It took several days before the feline finally tipped it over and rolled the glass close enough to the edge. The tip of it protruded over the shelf, so close to falling. Just give it a tiny push. Because cats were ornery, it pushed the bottle away from the edge, to the back of the shelf. The bottle waited some more. The feline skipped a few days before returning, this time playing more roughly with the bobbing pinpoint of light. Knocking the glass hard enough, it rolled to the edge. Almost there. The bottle didn't fall, but it wouldn't need much. Here, kitty, kitty. Less actual words and more a thought. A command the cat ignored. It lay down and groomed itself. Had to admire its suave nature. The bottle bounced a pinprick of light, trying to draw its attention. The cat chose to lick its genital area instead. Apparently, today was not the day. Or maybe it would never happen. It should resign itself to spending eternity on the shelf. The cat rolled and stretched, reaching out a paw that it placed on the bottle. Right on the spot. Only the slightest nudge would send it over the edge. The anticipation made the amphora hum with sound. The feline growled and rolled to its feet. It hunched over the bottle. "Push me," the cat hissed. "Hit me." The bottle glowed and hummed some more. The cat's growl rose in pitch, and it batted the threat. The bottle tipped and dropped to the hard tile floor. It didn't so much shatter as splinter. Hairline cracks formed in the glass. The cat leaped down beside it and sniffed. The impact lines spread, and a hum of sound escaped. A hint of something other. The cat cocked its head and leaned closer for a better sniff, just as the bottle exploded. The cat yowled and wished it were somewhere else. An ancient scream was released as the prison disintegrated, setting events into motion. Deep in a desert, the ground trembled as an ancient tomb opened. Fissures appeared in the hard-packed dirt, turning it back into sand, the fine grains and pebbles sinking into the earth. An entire section dropped away, showing a widening funnel that swirled, churning rock into sand and getting bigger, as if a stopper had been pulled, until it all ran out. A rift that hadn't been accessed in 3,000 years opened with a burst of power that radiated, pulsing outward, and all things living felt its passing. They just didn't understand what it meant. The innocence before the storm. From within the whirlpool of dirt appeared 4 shapes atop steeds made of bone. As they marched steadily upward, motes of sand and dust coalesced to give their mounts shape. Of those riding them, nothing could be seen but the cloaks that covered them. They trotted up the side of the funnel as if gravity did not apply. The heavy plods of the hooves made steady progress up the slope. They said not a word. At the rim of the funnel, they each chose a direction to face. Everywhere they looked, they could see only a barren wasteland and a mangy cat. It stood north of the rift and meowed. A hand, encased in a gauntlet, leaned down to grasp it, set it on its saddle. The horsemen kicked their heels and set off. No need to discuss their plans. They'd had 3,000 years to hone them, waiting for the day they'd return. They shimmered from view, as if a mirage, and yet that didn't stop a dragoness named Elspeth, who sometimes saw things no one else did, from stirring in her sleep and muttering. "Should have known it would be a cat that broke the first of the seals." That left 6. 6 chances to keep a great evil out of the world. But first, they should probably deal with the horsemen of the apocalypse. Chapter 1. Her very pink t-shirt. I don't believe in ghosts. I'm an archaeologist. The artifacts arrived in wooden crates, sealed tight and packed with popcorn foam that cushioned smaller solid boxes. Daphne shoved her glasses up on her nose as she took a moment to stare. This was more exciting than Christmas, for her at least. Canada so rarely enjoyed such exciting archaeological finds, and yet a ruin was found, by accident, in the depths of a lake in northern Ontario. A beaver dam had caused the water supply to the lake to run dry enough that the ruins that hid at the very bottom became exposed. Steps leading to a dais, a few toppled pillars, the stone pitted and eroded by water and time, yet clearly man-made. But which era? Who built them? That had yet to be determined. The few artifacts recovered had been catalogued and studied. Everyone was stumped. So while the historians and scientists scratched their befuddled heads, the amazing finds would go on display at the Canadian Museum of History, which was the most exciting thing ever. The archaeological find of the century, and Daphne was in charge of setting it up. First, though, precautions. She wore a clean white coat over her regular clothes. Her hair was tied back, and a surgical mask covered the bottom half of her face, mostly to block smells. Old things didn't always have the most pleasant scents. Giddy excitement filled her as she laid her gloved hands on the precious artifacts. She knew better than to leave any skin oils on them. First out of the crate, wrapped in bubble, a chunk of stone about 2 inches thick, possibly the remnant of a stone tablet. The amazing part? The carvings in it. Weird symbols that reminded her of Egyptian glyphs, and yet didn't match any currently on file. The linguists were creaming themselves in excitement over a new dead language. She ran her fingers through the faint grooves. So awesome, especially since one of the symbols reminded her of a dragon in flight. She loved dragons. She actually collected them, only handmade ones, carved soapstone, blown glass, and several metal pieces of art. It never ceased to amaze her how the dragon showed up in so many different cultures around the world, and going far back, too. Some in her circle speculated that the dragons depicted in ancient texts were actually the remnants of dinosaurs, flying reptiles that ended up going extinct. Others were convinced dragons actually existed because of recent media footage of people claiming to have caught them. Was it real? Hard to tell with today's excellent CGI, but what if it were true? What if dragons were real? Maybe she could meet one up close. Pet it. Keep it. Okay, maybe she couldn't keep a dragon, unless there were some people saying dragons could shapeshift to look like humans, which she personally thought was physically impossible. Dragons were big, people were small. It just didn't work. Unless the dragons were small, which would make it easier to keep one. She forgot about dragons and concentrated on her job again, placing the stone chunk carefully on her trolley. Next, she uncovered an old dagger, forged out of some unidentified metal. Not bronze or copper. It was something that they'd not yet been able to identify. The speculation was the metal was probably harvested from a meteor. But who did it belong to? There'd never been anything other than prehistoric tools found this far into the continent. This predated the first settlers. Its discovery would change the history of the country, and she got to see it and touch it before the general public. Her hands shook a little as she placed the dagger onto her trolley, giving it a light stroke. Total nerd girlgasm. Wrapped in layers of bubble wrap, she uncovered a vase comprised of pottery shards that had been glued together. They managed to recreate a pot, albeit with missing pieces. It took some delicate handling, as she feared it coming apart. Only one box left, the one she'd intentionally kept for last because it fascinated her the most. Of all the things found in that lake, it proved the most controversial, firstly because it should have never survived. Glass in a lake that had frozen and thawed countless times? The bottle should have long ago shattered, which led to arguments, as some claimed it wasn't part of the ruins. It must have sunk there more recently. But they shut up when all the tests they ran pegged it as being old, as in more than 1,000 years old. It had been located in a chamber accessed via a hidden doorway in the center of the dais. Apparently, it was like something out of a movie, the way a certain stone, when shifted, caused it to rumble open. The room beneath was filled with water, and so divers were sent in, a team of 3. 2 of them had seizures and died before they could be pulled back up. The third retrieved the bottle, but then refused to hand it over and tried to break it. He was supposedly recovering in a psychiatric ward, according to the rumor mill. The tragedy didn't end there. Of the people who then got to study it, one of them was arrested for trying to break into the lab to steal the bottle. Yet another of the scientists abruptly quit and decided she wanted to become a nun. 2 more died in a car crash. Given a number of people who died retrieving it, it wasn't long before rumors of it being cursed circulated. A tragedy for those involved, yes, but still only a weird coincidence. Daphne didn't believe for 1 minute there was a curse. Scientists did not believe in magic, but facts. The fact was, because people were freaked out, she got to see the controversial bottle for herself. She took her time peeling it open, the many protective layers only adding to her excitement. When the treasure was revealed, she took a moment to admire it, wondering at the intact stoppered jar. Not made of just any glass, but a very sturdy volcanic glass, shaped into a perfect urn, no handles, about 12 inches high, with a narrow neck and a fat base. The glass was a smoky gray color and smooth all over, not a single chip or crack in it. The plug in the top of it might have at one time been a wooden cork of some kind, but it had hardened into a solid, impenetrable mass. According to the summary reports she'd read, X-rays and other tests had shown it to be empty and old, even older than the ruins it was found in. Hefting it in her hands, she perceived a surprising warmth and had to wonder if it was truly empty. As she turned it around, she could have sworn she heard the whisper of something shifting within. "Open me." As if she would dare ruin such an important find. Still, she eyed the closed neck and poked at the plug. It didn't budge one bit. A wine corker would probably do the trick, or the penknife she kept in her desk for cutting packing tape and plastic ties. She shook her head. What was she thinking? As if she'd damaged something so precious. It went on the trolley with the other artifacts, and she carefully wheeled them out to the section in the museum assigned to them. She paid little mind to the display cases. She'd been working at the museum for more than 7 years and was well acquainted with every inch. Loved it. But sometimes she did tire of the repetitive nature of her work. There was a time she imagined her job taking her to strange places where discovery could still happen. And yes, in some of those fantasies, she had a bullwhip and a cool hat. Alas, reality kept her in Canada, working almost 50 hours a week, showcasing other people's discoveries. Still, she didn't hate her work. She just wished it were a little more exciting. She slowed the cart and locked its wheels, making sure it wouldn't move by accident, as one by one she placed the treasures in the display cases specially set aside for them. The tablet had a stand to hold it upright, much like that used for decorative plates. The vase, given it was precariously balanced, had a glass box to go over it, to keep it from tipping. The dagger sat on a white swatch of fabric that best showcased the detail. Then the pièce de résistance, the gray amphora. She gave it one more look. The surface reminded her of smoke, as if it moved and changed. A clever technique. She had to wonder at the skill involved in crafting something like this. It seemed impossible with the tools of the time. A true work of art. Smash it. The very idea rounded her mouth. Shocking. And not like her at all. What on earth was wrong with her tonight? As if she'd break such an important piece of history. Grrr. She could have sworn she heard a growl, and her mouth went dry. Just her imagination. A thing she had too much of. There is nothing here but me and the past. She grabbed the vase. With 2 hands holding it carefully, she placed it on a pedestal. From above, a light would spotlight it because she'd chosen it to be the highlight of the small collection. As she stepped back to see if she'd angled it correctly, she heard a noise, almost like the flapping of fabric. Probably Frank, the security guard. She hadn't seen him on his rounds yet. She turned a glance at the arch leading into this branch of the museum. "Frank, is that you?" The older man often found her on his rounds to say hello and offer her the newest low-fat, no-sugar treat his wife had made him. He said that by sharing, he didn't have to throw them out and lie to his wife about eating them. Because she felt sorry for his woebegone expression, she claimed to love the no-sugar coconut oil mixed with plain cocoa powder monstrosity. She'd then beg to take the whole thing, mostly so she could toss it out for Frank and save him. The archway remained empty, as did the room with other tables and stands showcasing more of Canada's history. She probably imagined the noise. It wasn't as if it were hard to spook herself when working in the museum at night. Being surrounded by all that history, it was easy to let herself imagine things that weren't actually there. Ghosts aren't real. She should know. If ever a place would be haunted, it would be the place where old things came to rest. Turning back to the bottle, she angled it slightly, then added its place card. She'd already uploaded the information for the digital display built into the pedestal. As she went to grab the glass case that she'd place over it, she heard the sound again, a rustling from above. Had a bird gotten into the museum again? The last one had caused trouble when it pooped on some borrowed artifacts. She'd not enjoyed explaining to the French curator why one of their marble busts had a very clean area where they'd scrubbed it. If they had another avian problem, she'd better make sure the bottle wasn't touched. She set the case over the amphora and clipped it into place before glancing up. Smoke seeped from a vent in the ceiling. Fire! Oh no! She whirled to look for the nearest alarm, which turned out to be by an exit. Before she could move for it, the smoke blocked her way. Like, literally blocked, moving with sinuous purpose, not behaving at all as it should. The dark cloud rippled, and then condensed until it formed a shape. And by shape, she meant a handsome fellow, dressed in a suit, dark hair slicked back, expression haughty. For a second, she eyed the artifacts she'd just laid out and wondered if they had somehow drugged her with an ancient hallucinogenic, because people did not form out of smoke. Yet, how could she be high? She'd not directly touched anything, and she'd been wearing her mask the entire time, which could only mean she must be dreaming. The smoky suit man spoke, his diction perfect, and yet stilted. "Step aside, human." The word held a definite sneer. "Excuse me? Why should I move? You don't belong here." Even in her dream, she wasn't about to have a man order her around. She'd worked damned hard to get her position. She shoved her glasses higher and thrust out her chest, wishing she had on something more impressive than her bright pink t-shirt. "You would dare defy?" For a moment, his shape wavered from man to shadow. "Who are you?" Although, what are you was probably the better question. "We are the Shaitan." "We?" She glanced around. "There's more of you?" "We are Legion." "You are spooky. I don't know how you got in here, but you need to leave. Now. The museum will be open in the morning." Dream or not, she stuck to the rules. Rules and science never let her down. "We do not obey the likes of you. Give us the amphora." He held out a hand, with 6 fingers. Not the only odd thing about him. His feet didn't end in shoes, but hooves. Someone was just missing his horns. And she was obviously hallucinating hard. This entire scenario reminded her of a video game she once played. In the game, the object was to keep the treasure safe from the demons who wanted to use it to open some gate to hell. "You want the vase? Why?" she asked as she pulled off the mask. "We do not answer to humans." "And I don't give artifacts to creepy guys in my dreams." "This is not a dream." "Then you are definitely not getting shit from me." She crossed her arms. "Leave, now, before I call security." "You would dare to threaten us?" He appeared surprised, then angry. "You will not stand in our way." "Actually, I can, and will." To make a point, she marched to the glass case and stationed herself in front of it. "This is museum property. Any attempt to take it will be considered theft."
"It is ours,"
Smoky Suit hissed. "No, it's not. And even if you had a claim, go through the proper channels. You are not getting that bottle on my watch. My ass will be grass if it goes missing." The smoky man cocked his head more than was natural.
"We tire of this conversation. You cannot stop us."
He moved closer, not quite walking, more like gliding, as if his feet were on rollers. Freaky. His cologne was acrid, yet fragrant, much like a burning spice. She held up her hand. "That's close enough."
"One thing hasn't changed in 3,000 years. Humans are just as stupidly stubborn and weak."
He snapped his fingers, and invisible bands suddenly wrapped around her, cinching her arms to her body. She gasped. "What have you done? Let me go."
"We think not."
The smoky man's gaze perused her, the orbs a pure black that didn't reflect anything. Pure evil. She didn't need to call upon her decades of reading horror to recognize it.
"You're not an ugly specimen for your kind,"
he declared. It was the most frightening thing he had said thus far, followed by a look that didn't just undress her. It left a dirty impression. Suddenly, terrified, if this was a dream, it was turning into a nightmare. She gasped. "You know what? Just take the bottle and go." She'd rather deal with the consequences of its theft than the weirdness happening, or the inherent threat chilling the blood in her veins.
"You do not command us. We will take and leave as we please."
"You'd better act fast, then. Frank will be doing his rounds any second. Keep screwing around, and you'll have to answer to him."
"One human against us,"
he grinned.
"Maybe we should tie our hands behind our back to make it sporting."
"Would it make a difference?"
"No."
The invisible bands around her disappeared, freeing her. He stepped even closer, the sharp smell burning her nostrils, a chill creeping up her spine. "What are you?"
"We told you. We are the Shaitan. Surely you've heard of us."
"Nope."
He frowned. "Impossible. There are stories told about us."
She shook her head.
"What of our lesser brethren, the Jinn and Ifrit?"
"Jinn? As in genie?" she giggled. "Those don't exist. Not outside of the movies and books. The only genie I know is blue and sings. He's friends with Aladdin," she babbled.
"Do not mention that traitor and its human,"
he boomed. He swelled large enough he had a cartoon bulging body and smoke seeping from his edges. She blinked. "That's it. No more ice cream before bed. Because there is no way any of this is happening."
"You would dare deny the Shaitan exists? Soon the world will tremble at our name and might. We have returned from exile, and this time we shan't be stopped."
Smoky Man stood right in front of her, a burning furnace, and yet she was chilled to the bone. She was also done. "I want to wake up." She shut her eyes and chanted. "This is just a bad dream. I'm sleeping in my bed."
"As you wish. Sleep forever."
A hand grabbed her throat with too many fingers and lifted. She gasped and stared at the face that didn't care. Grabbed at the hand that held her, hot but not burning. She pried at it as she kicked at him. He smiled.
"Humans might cover the world like roaches, but you are weak, easily squished, easily conquered.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?